The year is 1630. I now live in Venice, a once great city-state that for a time was the richest city in Europe, but today is ravaged by a mysterious disease that in just a year claimed the lives of thousands. I cannot let my fear of the epidemic and the horrible fate that awaits the infected overcome me, because I am a plague doctor. I prepare for the day by dressing in a special outfit, tough leather breeches to protect my legs, a long heavy coat that covers my entire body, the wide-brimmed hat that all doctors wear, and of course, my mask, the beak filled with herbs and perfumes to ward off the foul-smelling air of disease. I spend my days traveling to the homes of the sick, checking in on the infected and diagnosing new cases. I employ the most advanced medical knowledge of the day, performing bloodlettings and advising the ill to rub onions on their sores. I use a cane to examine the very sickest of my patients so that I don't have to touch them. Will these techniques work? Will I be able to cure the sick, or at least offer them some comfort in their final moments? Will I be able to find the source of the disease? And most importantly for me, will my precautions protect me from the same fate? This is far from the first plague. The historians tell us that they've occurred for centuries, yet each seems as if the world is finally coming to its end. From the plague of Justina that ravaged the eastern Roman capital of Constantinople to the Black Death that left over a third of Europe dead. Now, 300 years after the last terrible outbreak on the continent, it has reappeared here in Venice. And this plague has hit our city hard. Once a center of culture and commerce, we are seeing our time as a powerful city-state waning. The streets are empty and the shops are barren, with over a third of the population dead or dying. We tried locking the sick away in pest houses, stripping those who show signs of disease on their clothes and possessions and burning them, and even quarantining them to an island in an attempt to do something, anything to stop the spread, but nothing has seemed to work. The number of infected grows by the day, and the death count rises higher and higher. The plague is a true nightmare for those unlucky enough to become stricken by it. Strange swellings appear on the body, especially under the arms and around the groin, growing to the size of apples, and the weeping blood and pus before erupting into painful sores. The body is then overcome with fever and the chills. The patient can keep no food down and is wasted away by diarrhea and vomiting. It can progress so quickly that there's nothing I can do. Often someone goes to sleep healthy with no symptoms and is dead by morning. We are unsure of where the plague came from or how it spreads. Some think it only comes from the touching of an already infected individual. Others believe that spirits jump from the eyes of the sick into those of the healthy, carrying the death with them. As for myself, I believe that the foul air known as miasma carried this horrible malady. It is also why the most important piece of equipment is also the one that marks me most clearly as a plague doctor: my mask. Each day, I fill the nose with fresh flowers and herbs, using the pleasant smells to ward off the plague. I coat my clothes in a thick layer of sweat, or animal fat, in order to seal in the fabric and prevent any bad airs from penetrating to my skin. I focus on combating the odor that seems to follow the sick and encouraging the healthy to stay well by staying indoors and surrounding themselves with the pleasant aromas. I employ other techniques on those who are not yet at death's door, such as a bloodletting with the leeches or lancing the swollen boils in an attempt to drain the sickness away, though I must take great care to ensure that none of the potentially deadly fluids touch my skin. I am also cautious not to touch the sickest of patients at all. My cane allows me to examine their bodies from a distance, though when they are at that advanced stage, usually all I can do is direct the family to remove the body from the home when the patient eventually succumbs. Their bodies are added onto the carts that patrol the streets daily. Stacked high with corpses, these carts are dragged along by some poor soul who will no doubt be joining his cargo soon. They're taken out of the city and given a Christian burial if they are lucky, and burned in great piles if they are not. Day after day, I see more and more falling victim to this plague. I dream of a day when we can return Venice to its former glory. where hundreds of trade ships passed through a harbor and princes summoned the world's most talented artists to create great works to adorn their palaces. I fear that those days are dead and gone, and that there is little or anyone but God can do to stop this unending march of death. I make the long trek back to the section of the city where my home is, an area that luckily has been largely untouched by the plague. On my way, I stop to pray to St. Mary of Health at the new basilica that has been built in her honor, in hope that more offerings to God will end this catastrophe and perhaps serve as a penance for whatever our worldly deeds have brought this biblical punishment upon us. The day grows long, and I feel very tired, so I make my way home. I take great care when removing my mask, checking that there are no openings where the diseased air may have seeped in. I lay out my roll of tools so that they are ready for another day of tending to the unwell. I carefully remove my coat, my breeches, and then once again just a man. A man who sees that the day I've been dreading yet always anticipating is here. I lift my arm and see it, a swollen lump. It is now only a matter of time.